Hey everyone, it's Cassie and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today I'm going to be using some Miss Ink stamps. I have this fun one called Happy New Year. I had to use it. It says first rule of 2021 is never talk about 2020. And then I also have this one called BLITZENED. And although it is about drinking and I am not a heavy drinker, those images are, at the end of the holidays, we kind of all look like that, don't we? So we're going to play off that. We're going to use our alcohol inks. So I thought that would be fun. We're going to make some fun, easy backgrounds using our alcohol inks. And I thought I'd show you my storage, how I have those stored, and that's kind of how I go through and pick out which colors I want to use. Just look at them that way. We're going to go with color families, and here are the supplies I've got. That paper, typically you would use YUPO paper, which is a plastic paper, but I'm going to be using some poster board, and I'm going to be making 4 backgrounds, and we're going to stick to color families. So this first color grouping are the reds, and I've picked out cranberry, rosewood, and then I did bring in an alloy. This is mined alloy that I'm going to be bringing in, but this is just a super easy way to use your alcohol inks and not have to worry too much about how those colors are going to blend, because if we know anything from the color wheel, certain colors when they mix together will make brown, and if you don't really want to have to worry too much about that, just stick with color families, which is what I did here. And I haven't played with my alcohol inks in a minute, so I thought that this would just be a fun way to get back into it. And I don't know why I haven't been playing with them for a while, because I absolutely love them. I'm blowing those around using an alcohol ink blower. This is by Ranger, and I'll have that linked down below along with everything else that I've been using. But all you're going to do is just play. You're just going to play. So the blending solution helps to get things moving. And then you can just dab your colors right into there and blow them around with the air or the alcohol ink blower. I know that's not the right technical term for it, but I will have it linked down below. And so here's our red one. I think this one, it turned out so fun. It does need to dry still, but love how that looked. So our next grouping will be the yellows, and I have another piece of poster board. And if you're not familiar with what poster board is, you can find it at the dollar store or kind of in the craft section. Kids use it for posters and school projects and things like that, and so it's a very inexpensive way to use your alcohol inks, and it does give a tiny bit of a different look, and I actually really like the look, to be honest with you. I love how it looks on YUPO paper, but it looks really cool on this poster board too. And like I said, it's a less expensive way to use those alcohol inks, because YUPO paper can kind of be a little pricey. All right, so the colors I used here are Butterscotch, Peach Bellini, and Statue alloy. And once again, just going through that same process of just putting those colors down. With the red one and this yellow one, all I wanted to do was play and fill that paper. I'll be a little bit more conscious of where I'm putting my colors on the next two, but for these two, I just wanted to play around, and I just love that wispy look that you get with that alcohol blending solution here on the poster board. It's just a lot of fun, and like I said, I didn't really want to have to worry too much about how colors would blend, and this was a way to do it. So that one turned out really pretty as well. Clean up my mess. And then our next grouping is going to be like black and dark purple. So this first color is eggplant. Then I'm going to bring in pitch black, and then the alloy I'm using is sterling silver. Or sterling is what it's called. And I am focusing primarily on that diagonal from the upper right hand corner to the lower left. So that's all I want to do. I'm going to leave those upper left hand corners and lower right hand corners white space. And so I'm bringing in that pitch black, which is very dark. And so I don't really want to lose that eggplant, so I'm going to bring that back in. I'm still really trying to learn how to use those alloys, but I have found the best way for me to figure out how to use my products is to play with them. And so that is what I like to do. And then again, just bringing in more of that color, that blending solution. I love the wispiness, almost like smoke. When you put it towards the edges, it just on that poster board looks so pretty. So we'll bring in more of the blending solution, a little bit more of that eggplant, and move that around. And if you'll notice, I do try to keep my caps close to my colors so that I don't get those mixed up. But there is that purple and black one. I love how that one turned out. This final one is going to be all blues. I'm not bringing in an alloy, and I'm going to focus more on that lower right hand corner. So I'll start with my blending solution, and then I'll bring in the colors Mermaid, Aquamarine, and Cobalt. And like I said, this is so fun when you're just talking like a color family. And there are so many different colors within each color family. You could just have so much fun making these backgrounds. And they're all unique and they're all beautiful. That is the fun thing about alcohol inks, is that, you know, you're not necessarily going to get the same thing each time you play. I did forget to mention that if you are going to be using alcohol inks, make sure you're using them in a well-ventilated area. I have windows and such. In my previous craft space, I didn't have any windows and it was a very small space, so I actually used a mask when I was using them. And so we should all be used to masks by now. So what's a little bit more? No, but anyway, going back to these, I'm just playing around with this blue and just loving how this is turning out. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to set that one off to the side to dry as well. I'll pull all 4 in so you can kind of take a look at how those look, but look at that texture on there. So cool. Ah, that makes my heart go pitter patter just looking at those 4. And I didn't even go crazy with colors. I just used a couple colors for each one. And you end up with these stunning, stunning backgrounds with really little to no effort. Love them. All right, now we're going to move on to our coloring of those images. I went ahead and stamped those out onto some Express It blending card, which is my favorite paper for alcohol marker coloring. And then I stamped those using some Ink on 3 blackout ink, which is quickly becoming a favorite ink of mine. It's nice and dark and it dries very quickly. Sometimes that is an issue for me using different inks that are made for alcohol inks. Sometimes they don't dry as fast and then you end up getting some smudging. So when I'm coloring, if you've never watched me color before, I typically go from lightest to darkest, and all I'm doing here is working in sections and just so that way I don't have a whole lot of marker lines, if that makes any sense. So I'll just work in those different sections and I'll put down that first color, which is the E35. And then once I'm happy with how that is on there, which there are some white spaces you'll notice, but I'm going to do more blending so that'll get covered. I'm going to bring in my darker color, which is E99, and bring that in for my shadowing. You could go even darker in areas if you wanted to. I stuck to a 2-color blend for most of my color blends for all of these images, mostly because I wanted my focus to be on those alcohol marker background or alcohol ink backgrounds. But yeah, so just putting in a little bit of shading and shadowing where I think it would go, and then I'll bring that E35 back in and blend that color out a little bit more so that it's not too harsh of a line. And then we'll move on to coloring his little antlers, which is with, I did that with E31, I believe. And then, yeah, I'm just going to leave it with the 1 color for the antlers, and then we're going to bring in a couple colors for each of the lights that we do. We're going to do a blue after his nose. His nose is going to be, his nose and his hooves will be W8. And then we're going to bring in our 8-1 for his ears. And then for the blue, we're using B18 and B79. And then for our reds, we're using R17 and R29. And I'm using these exact same colors for all of the images that I have up on there. So if I don't show them again, just know that it was a combo that I'd already used. Y06 and Y19 for the yellow lights. And then for our green lights, we're bringing in G05. And I believe G19 is our darkest, or G09, my bad. And then we'll be done with our little reindeer who is pooped or blitzened, whatever you want to, however you want to imagine him. I will say those sentiments are quite funny, even if you aren't really a drinker. They're kind of cute. All right, then again, moving on to our holly using those same colors that we've already used, blending those out, and then our berries, and then his little candy cane. He just looks so cute asleep in that little cup, holding that candy cane. That would be kind of a happy thought, huh? Just lay there with a candy cane. And then I'll bring in that darker color. And you'll notice on the candy cane, because it is a rounded image, I don't typically go all the way to the edge. That just gives your eye the illusion that it is a rounded image. And then I'll blend that out just a little. To color our mouse, I decided to bring in some warm tones. So our first color is W3. My W's get lots and lots of use, so I definitely have my re-inkers for these. In fact, I need to buy more re-inkers. I am in desperate need of some reinkers, but just finding them is a whole nother story. And then I'm going to bring in my W4 for a little bit darker areas. And then we'll blend that out with our lighter W as well. So we'll blend that out, and then we'll bring in the black, that W8 for his nose, and then we'll bring back in that R8 one for his ear. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of a cool gray around the cup. Not a whole lot of area, just kind of adding a little bit of color and texture. Then we're going to move on to our champagne bottle, which we are using some BG, some blue greens for that. This is the BG 96. And then we'll bring in a darker BG 99. Once again, keeping that as a rounded image. And then we'll bring in Y26 for the label. I'll be honest, I don't really remember what a champagne bottle looks like. I'm sure they're all different colors. And then we'll put a little bit of champagne in the one, and then we're going to blend that out with some Y23. And then we'll even put that on the little bubbly area. And then bring in some Y28 for some darker area on the champagne bottle. And then this is super simple. I'm not really even going to do any shadowing or shading because these are tiny images of the little Merlot bottle and the wine glass. And then we are going to fussy cut each of those out. I do not believe that Miss Ink Stamps has the matching dies for these. I could be wrong. If they do, I'll have those linked down below. But here they are. I am going to have to trim down each of these panels. They were 4.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and I want these to cover the full front of an A2 size card, so I'm going to cut off just 1/4 inch on the one edge. And then for my sentiments, they're all going to be the same. I'm inking those up with some Ink on 3 Juicy embossing ink. And then I'll cover those with some alabaster embossing powder. And as you notice, I did keep those kind of in the center of that cardstock because, again, I wasn't sure how I wanted to cut those down. I'll heat set that till those are smooth and melted, and then I'll use my guillotine trimmer to trim all of my sentiments down. And when all of those are trimmed down, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I put those together. Just trying to figure out the process of them, where I wanted to stick those sentiments. And like I said, this is why I kept those sentiments long. But here, let's take a look at our finished products. I didn't add any embellishments because I figured those backgrounds were plenty. But isn't that fun, that white or that red? Our red ho ho ho, pour the Merlot. Here, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse on the yellow background. And then I did do a little bit of stamping on the inside of each of those. Here we have, 'tis the season to get blitzened. He looks exhausted, doesn't he? And the tree isn't the only thing that's going to get lit. And then this one is my favorite because first rule of 2021 is never talk about 2020. Happy New Year! So there you have it, some very easy alcohol ink backgrounds. I would love to know what you think of these. If you liked this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.